Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen. And today my guest is Sharon Strimling. I hope I pronounced that right. Is that right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
And Sharon and I actually met, I don't know, about 6 months ago, I think. Probably
it
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. And felt a real connection. And so I asked her if she'd like to be on the podcast. So here
And I
she
was
is.
delighted. Thank you so much.
Yes. So let me tell you a little bit about Sharon. Sharon is a coach and consultant with 30 years of experience in psychological and physical well-being. She speaks from experience to our unbreakable connection to a brilliant physical, psychological, and spiritual resilience, and to how that remains forever on our side, regardless of whether it looks that way. And Sharon works with, among other people, executive teams, nonprofits, political refugees and their first responders, teens, parents, trauma survivors, health seekers, and creatives. And she offers in-person and online immersions, international retreats, and island retreats from her home island of Martha's Vineyard. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Susan. Such a pleasure to be here. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
And you know, I'm sure that everyone will have listened to your intro and gone, oh yeah, we need more of that. Oh yeah, I need to learn about that.
Like I did. Like
all of us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They might also be saying, wow, that's a lot of different people with different backgrounds, and and
yeah.
And I think that's what makes this conversation so interesting that you and I can have, because it really doesn't matter what it matters, but it's regardless of what people are up against or who they are, where they're from, we have health. And what's universal about that, right? What is it that we all have for resilience on every level? And it's just a beautiful conversation because, as you know, this can speak to anyone. And today, hopefully, we'll find the words that will speak to your audience, your listeners, and who they are and what they're interested in. I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about that. Like, who would we be speaking to today in your experience?
Well, I think that the people who like my podcast, and mind you, I don't get a lot of feedback, which is really kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Although I've talked to other people who do podcasts and stuff and say people don't leave comments all that much anymore, not like they used to.
Right.
So, but I think that they are people who, well, number one, they're from all over the world, which I think is interesting. And they're looking for new and different ways of being healthy.
Yeah.
Have maybe a little different, there are people who are just like, oh, well, tell me the healthy tips, because I do some of those as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this was just found or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who are very interested in overall wellness.
Yeah.
They're getting older.
Yeah.
Maybe their bodies aren't working quite as well as they used to. Maybe their minds aren't working quite as well as they used to.
Yeah.
That's why they identify with me.
Yeah.
Right. And the world is changing. The world has changed.
Yeah.
And I think that we all at some level understand that it's not going back to the old normal.
Right.
There's a new normal. And, you look around, you watch the news, whatever, and people have moved. They've either lost their jobs or they could go and Zoom, right? Which they can do from anywhere.
Right. There's a,
there are people who have lost loved ones.
yeah.
They may be having their own issues. And as you and I talked about earlier, the people on the streets, a lot of people are afraid to even go out in the street. The world is just kind of turned into kind of a funny place. And I don't know how much all of this is very United States centric, or how much of it is in other parts of the world as well, or maybe not to the same degree.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I think it seems that in all times, and there's change, and it seems to me that there's change everywhere. And like you said, that people are up against different things, but I don't know anybody who's not up against something, right? If it's why do I ache all the time now when I didn't used to, or if it's I can't go to the gym because I can't wear a mask and breathe well, or if it's, I'm not getting as much exercise, or I'm staring at a computer screen, or, my children are anxious, people are always up against something. And so what I find so powerful though, is to realize that in all those stories, we can, when we pay attention, when we look at it, we can see people are up against all kinds of things. And there's something at play in all of them. There's something at play in all of us, that especially if we know it's there and we know what the voice sounds like, we can hear it and we can listen, right? And we can optimize ourselves for well-being no matter what we're up against. And to me, that's a very hopeful message that I didn't know. I didn't know that when I had PTSD, when I was incapacitated from a physical illness, like I've been up against stuff, right? Like we've all been up against things. And I didn't know that I didn't know how strong the writing mechanisms, the healing mechanisms in my mind and body were. I didn't know that they were always at work, even when it didn't look like they were, right? When I was in a mess in my mind, I didn't know that my mind was doing its best to correct things. I didn't know how to hear it, and I didn't know how to listen to it. Right. And I remember one time, physically, so I'd been in some car accidents and had some head trauma when I was a kid. And I remember this was great. It was deep into my understanding, but another place I hadn't seen it yet. I went to a chiropractor one time and she got a full on history of my life, physical and emotional life. Like she took hours and she did all kinds of testing. And I said, when I was 16, I was a health nut. And I have gotten massages. I ran a massage center. I was a fitness trainer. I trained as a yoga instructor. I'm a nutritional health coach. Like I've studied the mind. I've studied the spirit. I have, exercised and done yoga and eaten well, never in the kind of like disciplined way that a lot of people do, but throughout my life, since I was 16, how can I hurt so much? And you know what she said to me? She said, Sharon, the way I see it with what you went through, if you hadn't been following all that wisdom, if you hadn't been doing all those things, I don't think you'd be moving right now.
Wow.
She said, your spine wouldn't be bending, right? Look what you do. And it was such a wake-up call to me to realize that my way of judging it in the moment, oh, I have pain, there's something wrong with me. Well, there might be a bigger context, right? I'm doing things wrong. There might be a bigger context. Maybe we're up against things in life emotionally and physically. And, maybe we have pain, or maybe we have really dark thoughts. Maybe we have times where we just feel like we are a mess or going nuts, right? But maybe there's a bigger picture that shows that pain comes and goes, dark thoughts come and go. And every time they do, if we pay attention, we'll notice
Mm-hmm.
that there's moments where those thoughts pass and that pain passes. And so much, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but this always delights me. Like, when you like, your hip hurts a lot and it's all you can think about. It's just getting to you. Right. And then a week later, someone says, "Oh, how's your hip? Are you still struggling?" And you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I forgot about that."
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
when it passes, we forget. And that's beautiful. But, there's something to that. There's something to remembering that it is built into us, that we have recovered 1,000,000 times from 1,000,000 or more than that, right? Painful thoughts, from 1,000,000 injuries, from 1,000,000 illnesses, and kind of notice what that means about our resilience.
Yeah.
And notice that we've had good ideas. Notice that, things have occurred to us that we had bad ideas for a while and we ate things that hurt, that didn't feel good. But then we had a good idea and we gave it up at one point, right? Or we changed one habit a little bit. And I don't say that to be positive or to try to make people feel good. I say that because it's true. And in my experience, the truth of that and the noticing of that and the coming into touch with it being part of our consciousness, part of our awareness, like, what is that thing that happens that writes me? It becomes less on me to micromanage it and more on me to just notice it, appreciate it, and kind of have my consciousness tuned to it. How does that work? And if it's working for me, how can I maybe sometimes get out of its way a little more? How can that intelligence become more a part of my daily life? And what does it sound like? What does the voice sound like that says, you know what, you think you want chocolate right now, which I often do, but right now you don't. Right now you want broccoli. Like that happened to me one time. It was so weird. I was going for chocolate and it occurred to me to ask if that's what I was craving. Like it occurred to me out of nowhere to go, is that what I want? And I was like, no, what am I craving? And I sat there for a moment and I thought, broccoli. Well, that's weird. Right.
Well,
So anyway, I said a lot. I don't know if any of that resonated.
Not to me. I don't like chocolate. So
Okay, there you go.
I'm one of the really weird people in the world.
I'm gonna have to dive into that sometime. I need to hear more. You got to wake up my world.
Yeah, I don't know. I love broccoli. So you just hit on the two.
There you go. That's so funny. I love that. That's one of those small synchronicities.
Oh,
I don't know. Did any of that make sense? Like,
yeah. No, absolutely. It did. And what came up for me was the thought that, which I've read somewhere as well, is that part of the way that human beings work and that makes us able to continue living, right, if you want to call it that, is that we don't remember everything.
Yeah.
And forgetting and letting go is it's a part of our nature, and it's what keeps us alive.
Yeah. I love that. Noticing what's part of nature that keeps us alive, right? Noticing the wisdom of nature. I feel like that's really my whole job. That's it. That's all I do with people. We don't try to change nature. Like first of all, how hard would that be? Right? Like
that's impossible. People have been trying to do that for thousands of years, right?
Trying to change nature. But also it's like, why? Like when I look around at nature, I see that nature has all kinds of weather. I see that, storms happen and then there's new life from them, and sometimes all we can see is the pain, because there's a lot of pain in those storms sometimes for us, right? But nature does fine. There's fire happens and then embeds the soil with these nutrients, and then there's new
Yeah.
life. And we watch trees grow out of the side of rock faces, and we watch
Yeah.
flowers finding their way around shadowed buildings and facing the sun. The intelligence of nature and us being part of that, if we don't catch on to that, then it becomes a very big job to fix myself, right? Like it becomes a very big job, and I would say an impossible job, for me to make my mind beautiful all the time, and for me to make my body, like healthy all the time, or that definition, like symptom free all the time. Right.
Right.
When real health looks like getting challenged by germs and having the immune system build, right? To me, real emotional and psychological health means that I'm going to be up against stuff. And when I'm up against stuff, there's a way that life will pull me back into the present moment, whether I'm trying to or not. I will fall asleep. I will get hungry. I will have to go to the bathroom, right? I will hear something funny and have to laugh, right? And when I'm talking to people who think they never have a moment where their mind's at peace, my first and only real meaningful job is for them to notice that that's a narrative, for them to notice that what happened when you tasted that ice cream, right? Or what, and not for everybody. For some people, like, no, my mind was dark. I didn't even taste it. Okay. Well, when is a moment in your day when you forget, and for some people it's, when I have to take care of my dog, I got to feed my dog. Right. And it's so interesting. Like I realized that the world of the world of emotional suffering is the personal world. And when we're pulled out of it, when we're not thinking about ourselves, right? There's something that happens. What is that thing that happens? Well, I feed my dog. I care about my dog.
Yeah.
I love my dog. And I didn't make that happen. Life brought me there. So, I mean, that's just one example, but to realize, for me, it was such a relief to realize that presence was built into life, and life was going to keep pulling me there.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And that my only, that what I can do is understand it better. I can experience the mind settling relief of that, which is helpful. It's helpful when the mind settles, and I can lean into it more the way I would, ride whitewaters. I would lean into the curves. I would let the river take me away from the rocks, which is what it does.
Yeah.
So but those are sort of, that's a little bit of, and I completely respect and understand that this is, when I first heard people talking about this innate wisdom, I thought, but like I'm eating badly, I'm not sleeping well, like it doesn't look like it's there. And I get that. And so that's why it's helpful to start to explore, what have I been missing? What have I not been seeing that's there?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And I think, the other thing too that kind of comes to mind for me is that, especially for women, okay, and there are some men who don't, but who do it as well, but we're always asking ourselves, well, how can I help this person? How can I help that person? How can I fix this person?
Yeah.
Right. But we don't pay attention to ourselves. And I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in, being selfish or something like that. It's the old, put your own mask on first,
right,
kind of thing. And I
love that. Yeah.
Had decades of that, and it totally ended up being a shit show. And unfortunately, I was, older when I finally realized it. But
Yeah.
but I did, and that's all that's really important. But
Yeah. That's
it's but I'm just, I think people, it's like, if you can't, we have to pay attention to ourselves,
yeah. Yeah.
and and as you're saying, listen to that voice inside of you
Yeah. Right.
that can help and can tell you where, what you need to do. Sometimes it's just, sit down,
Sit down. Yeah. Just take a breath.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm currently volunteering for first responders to the Afghan
Mm,
crisis. And
mhm,
I have to admit, when I got on the first group with them, I thought, what can I possibly offer? When they spelled out what was happening, which is that, you know, they feel like, or some of them feel like they can't take any time to themselves because there's
right,
people whose lives hang in the balance. They're
right.
volunteers. They just, they have jobs, some of them that they can't do their jobs now. They
Yeah.
have families, some of them that they can't spend time with now in their minds because
Mm,
they get a message that someone's being tortured, or someone is
yeah.
in danger for their life. And so there's this feeling of, how can I possibly like take care of myself while helping them, right?
Mm,
And when
mm,
I got on the call with them, there's this moment of insecurity because all of us have thoughts that are helpful and thoughts that aren't, including people who, share and teach and educate, right? So like, I think I'm going to be up against these things the rest of my life. I'm going to
right.
forget and remember and have wisdom and not see it and not hear it the rest of my life. And to me,
Mhm.
that's actually become beautiful. It's become
Yeah.
beautiful to me that I am going to move through life continually learning, right? And continually
Hmm.
have insight that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a daily thing. Oh my gosh, I saw this today. I saw this today. I saw this today because I'm happy to see. It doesn't mean anything about me that I haven't seen
Mm-mm.
everything, other than it seems to me that's the human condition. We don't
Mhm.
see everything, but when we stay alive and we keep our eyes open and our ears open, we hear things and we see things. And so anyway, I have
And we
this,
forget things.
and we forget things. And I have this moment of insecurity. I'm facing these people and I'm thinking, oh my God, what can I do for them?
Yeah.
Right. And then it passed,
Mm.
because what I remembered is they are all the same nature that finds its way
Mhm.
to growing out of the side of a cliff from a tiny piece of soil,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? They are all the intelligence that's running their hearts, running their digestion without them micromanaging it,
Mhm. Mhm.
fighting off
Yeah.
infection, breathing. Like that's what they are. And
Mhm.
I remembered that and I spoke to that. And most people aren't
Mm.
aware of the brilliance that they are,
Right.
because we don't, there's only so much we can pay attention to in a day. We're trying to create lunch for make lunch for our kids, right? But it only takes a moment to notice that I didn't have anything to do with the fact that during my sleep, things healed. And I know when I'm hungry
Yeah.
and my heart rate goes up when I move fast,
Yeah.
right? Like we notice that. So I'm in front of them, not to make this story too long. I remember that. And I speak to them about
Mhm.
intelligence, and they start to notice, oh yeah, I know I felt like I couldn't say no to that particular person, but in
Mhm.
retrospect, I wouldn't have done it any other way. It was just
Mm.
more important to me than, in this case, this holiday I was supposed to be with my family with. It just was more
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
And at other times, I have turned my phone off.
Mhm.
And at other times, I have told people I need to take a break, even if it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I've listened sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And we start to notice that and go, well, what would happen if did it work out okay? Right? Did it work out okay?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
worked out okay. Okay, so now I have a little more confidence in trusting that voice.
Yeah.
So I think of it, somebody gave me this metaphor long ago and I love it. our insecure thinking, our personal thinking, our trained, programmed lessons that we've heard culturally or from our families or from our own insecurities, whatever, that thinking is loud. It's like a marching band.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in the background, there's something that sounds like a flute or a harp. It's softer.
Yeah.
And it's saying things like, take a nap, turn off the phone, or it's time to eat, or take a breath, or even I'm going to do this even though it doesn't look like taking care of myself is the right thing to do. And we can listen moment to those. And in my experience, there will be times where I stretch myself, but that little voice is behind me. It's backing me up. I can stretch myself right now. And there's times where it says, I'm getting depleted. It's time to stop.
Yeah.
But if I don't know that voice is there, I'm going to try to do it all from what other people say. Oh, I'm supposed to have 3 walks a day and I'm supposed to, and so then I can't take care of this person, or I'm supposed to have, right? There's a lot of stuff we can take from the outside in that makes us look like we're not doing health right, or we're not doing ourselves right. I should think positively.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I need to think something really dark and have a cry. That's what I need to do. And then, you know,
Or
what?
throw things, right? Yeah.
Is peace. So I love what you're saying about taking care of ourselves. And what I've noticed is that as soon as we start to get a sense that maybe I'm pretty smart there, I just haven't been listening. And maybe it can look like a lot of different things, not my neighbor's way of taking care of herself. Maybe, you know, she meditates 2 hours a day. Maybe I play with my dog, you know. Maybe I show up for someone else and it feeds my soul. Maybe it gives me a break from my busy mind about myself.
Yeah.
It can look like anything. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it does. It does, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I think, you know, it's funny because you can do something like volunteering.
Yeah.
Right. Go help, you know, the people down the street or something who are living in a shelter. And it may seem like that's not going to be putting you first.
Right.
But the energy, the feeling, the seeing the gratefulness on people's face. How could you do anything more for yourself? I mean, it's just, you know, it's not, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's kind of like it's not an either or. There's not this line where, oh, if I help these people, then that's not helping me. And it's like, no, that's opening yourself. That's, you know, and I think that part of what sun things on me, what people don't understand, you know, that doing things that feed your soul is doing things for yourself. It's not just always choosing yourself, you know, above, well, I'm going to do what I want, you know, what I feel like, something that's, you know, that is as well. You choose to go help people. You know, it's still a choice, and that's the important part. Right? You don't feel like you have to.
Right.
You know, that's when it's not choosing yourself.
And I think for me, the have to always comes from a feeling of insecurity. You know, a thought sets in, but the thing about thoughts is there's always a counter thought, right? Like the thing about ideas, like, I had this idea, oh, this was a long time ago, but I had a friend who lost one parent and then lost another parent, and we were young. And I was in the middle of something really big in my life, and I was pretty overwhelmed. But I had a rule in my mind. I didn't realize it, but I'm her friend. I'm showing up. And I dropped everything I could, and I went to her house and helped her empty her parents' house, and occasionally ducked into a room where I didn't think she would see me, and took care of a few things that were on my plate, and went back out and helped her again. And she taught me one of the best lessons in my life. She brought me to the bus station to come home. And I thought she was going to thank me for being there, but she didn't. She said, "You shouldn't have come." And this is going to sound so harsh. And believe me, I was crying. It wasn't easy. Some lessons don't come easy, right? You shouldn't have come. You think I don't know how much stress you were under while you were here? And you think I don't care and love you? You just added to my burden. Oh my God. Right? I was like, just saying this, I've got goosebumps.
Yeah.
And I sobbed on the bus on my way home, and I realized how right she was, that I had made a rule that that's what you do. But my wisdom might have said, had I known at the time to listen to it, my wisdom might have said to call her and say, I have this going on.
Yeah.
And I want to be there for you. What's the best way for you, for me to be there for you? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then run it by my own wisdom about the best thing for me to do. Right?
Yeah.
And that was such a lesson. And, I wake up to rules like that all the time. And so for these people who are helping these refugees, their rule might be, if the phone rings, I have to answer it. And they may not have a very long longevity in their work if they have a rule. But if it strikes them that I did promise this time to my husband, this woman is at risk. My heart is being with her. I wonder if my husband's okay with that. Let me ask him, right? And he says, yeah, that's the thing to do. Well, then there can be peace about doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about just kind of dropping out of that personal world of thought that we've made up, because there's always a counter argument. There's always a counter argument to our thoughts. But beneath that is the violin or the flute or the knowing. And it feels wise. It feels like it's in the best of interest of everybody. It's just a feeling that it lands with, you know what I mean? There's that feeling.
Yes.
So it could, at one time for me, I was in the middle of a very emotional, like very difficult situation for me. And what came to me was, I need to watch Marvel movies and eat popcorn. And I wasn't that girl. Like I was the woman, who was always doing meaningful stuff with my time. And what I realized, and it ties in beautifully with brain circuitry and the science behind it, but I didn't know that. I was giving the repetitive thoughts a break. I was getting lost in a movie that I knew was a movie, as opposed to the movie in my head that I don't know is a movie, right? I was getting lost in that movie, and I was giving those circuits a time to reorganize themselves.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Marvel movies, right? And it was great. So I guess that's kind of where we're going, Susan, right? Like we can take care of ourselves, and it doesn't have to be cookie cutter. It's going to be our own intelligent, our own intelligent journey.
Yeah. Well, because all of our journeys are different.
Yeah.
How can there be one thing that if we all do it, it's all going to work? Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. That would be pretty boring too.
Well, God, somebody really would have made a lot of money off of that one.
Yeah.
Package that and sell it. But yeah, it's well, and I also think that, not that it's necessarily changed very much, but I think it's more so, or was more so when we were all growing up. Okay. And even more so our parents. But the women were raised that we were supposed to fix everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was our responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. And, and 50 years ago, not to say that that was the right thing to do, but women had a little more time because they weren't working, which isn't necessarily, I mean, there were some who were, but the majority, because we weren't socialized to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're trying to do jobs, take care of our families, take care of our friends, take care of, the world. And who the hell has enough energy for all that?
What does it even mean?
Yeah.
What does it even mean? Like, does it mean preventing pain? Does it mean, like, can we change the nature of life as it is? We're all going to be up against stuff. And, I think one of the things that's really shifted for me, and, we can all kind of ask ourselves this, but when I work with groups, a lot of times I'll work with anybody. One of the first questions I ask is, when do you have your best ideas, either for yourself or for your work or for your company or for your teammates? If you're like, when do you have your best ideas, or for your book? And a lot of times people will say, oh, the classic ones. And when I'm out for a run or when I'm in the shower, right? They'll say these things. But it's never really landed until really bring it to them in this, well, so what is that about? What is that about? Why? And what I've seen for myself is that as my mind relaxes, as I'm dancing or rolling on the floor with the dog or resting, I'll have good ideas, and they'll be the kind of good ideas that stick. Like, I think I'm ready to, I wasn't before, but now I would like to wake up in the morning and do 20 minutes yoga, because I know I can put that in my schedule. I know I can fit 20 minutes. And I know I'll probably, once I'm on the mat, want to stay a little longer, right? Or I'll have the idea, I have a lot on my plate, and it will occur to me who to reach out to assist with that, or to take something off my plate. But it will occur in those moments when my mind settles. What does that mean? Well, it kind of means like I've been walking through puddles and stirring up the mud, right? And the mud's all stirred up. And a lot of times when I want the clear water again, right, when I want the clear mind again, I put my boots on and I try to stomp that mud down to the bottom of the puddle, right, which we know doesn't work. There's a force at play that if I leave that puddle alone, there's a force at play where that mud will drop. It will. And the water will become clear. And I started realizing that's true of my mind. And as far as I know, anybody's mind I know.
Oh yeah. Stop thinking about it.
Alone. There is a force, and I can't try because that would be like the boots stomping. But if I truly am distracted, or let myself be distracted, or rest, or just give myself some time, the force of gravity will, the force of what I call the psychological immune system will pull that silt down, and the water will become clear. And if that's where my best ideas are, why don't I let that happen a little more? Because those best ideas are the ones that are going to take care of me, and hand in hand, guaranteed in my experience, try it out for yourself, but guaranteed in my experience, be the best for the world. Those are the ideas that will help others. But when you said put your mask on first, you weren't kidding. Right? But it doesn't have to look a certain way. It just looks like, I don't know yet, but I will know. And that relaxes my mind, and my mind relaxes. And then I know how to help somebody. And in the meantime, I have experienced well-being, because by the way, when the water clears, I feel good too, right? I feel at peace.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful to me how it's not even like take care of myself and then I'll take care of others. Although sometimes that's how it looks. Sometimes it is true. Sometimes it's true because it's a thought, and sometimes it's true. But it also can look like they go absolutely hand in hand. As I am experiencing my own well-being, my consciousness is rising, my clarity is rising, my perspective is rising, the information is kind of sorting its way in. And then I have the tools to make the best business decision, the best life decision, be of best use to my children or my partner or my parents or the world or the environment.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
It's so lovely. It's such a kind system. To me, it's a kind system. It's a kind system that says, okay, nature's at your back. Like, we've got this because we're nature. And the kind system can hold us. And as it holds us, the happy result is I can hold others better.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have to, I've learned to respect that, because coming from some chronic illness and chronic fatigue and that kind of thing, I blow it all the time. I blow it all the time, Susan. Like I forget, and I get busy minded, and I get really excited, and I want to show up here, and I want to show up there, and then I want to do this, and then I collapse, and I learn again, and then I remember the next time. It's just it's a slow drip for me. I learn really slowly over a long period of time.
It's not well. I'm not sure that that's exactly the right way to describe it. I think it's excuse me. I think it's just, it's like insight after insight after insight.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a better way of describing it.
And it just they kind of build, and you kind of go, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah. Okay. That's right. I got to do this.
Yeah.
But that's what learning is anyways, really.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I mean, yeah, you're so right. And I guess I feel kind of fortunate, and probably the people who are listening are fortunate too. And you're fortunate too. Like, we like to learn. Otherwise we wouldn't be talking, and we wouldn't be listening. We're born to learn. Like, you watch little kids, they soak up learning, and it can be an enjoyable process. Like, I can laugh at the fact that, like, I just realized within the past, I'm 52, like in my late 30s or early 40s, I thought, oh my gosh, I could say no. And then I laughed at the fact that, like, that might have occurred a little bit earlier for some people, right?
No, some of us, it was even later.
And I still forget. But yeah, it can be, it can be, if we realize that we're all human, we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing the same thing.
That's right.
And then, right. Sometimes it gets me down, but most of the time I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's all coming from the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, where your voice is coming from, where my voice is coming from, it's all the same. It's the same energy, same intelligence, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's, and I think that is also very I can't think of what the right word is, but I get the picture of a big hug. It's very assuring, and supportive to know that it's there, and it's there for all of us.
Yes.
If we just, like you say, listen.
And for those who are parents, it's there for their kids.
Amazing, huh?
You know, we worry so much about our youngsters, especially now, I think. And we can, like I just had one young person here last week for an immersion, you know, and he thought he was broken and he was heading for, you know, all kinds of treatment. And as simple as this, as simple as pointing out the wisdom, and young people are great because they're so close to it, right? They knew what it was like to get really pissed off on the playground and forget about it the next moment, right? They knew what it was like to have a tantrum and then not be worried about the fact that they had a tantrum. They knew what it was like to get completely like they were going to die because they couldn't have a lollipop and then get distracted by, you know, their friend. They know this. They know they have experience and then it passes, and they know that they scrape their knee and then it heals. Like they know this stuff so well. So it happens really fast for them. And so, you know, having this conversation with him was one where, you know, the remembering came so quickly, right? And the experience of thinking there was something wrong with him dissolved. The comfort of knowing that what you're talking about is there for all of us, you know, returned. And suddenly the experience of being alive was a lot less scary and a lot less broken, right? And the idea that, you know, I think one thing with young people is they're sort of taught a bit, and we got to wrap up soon, I think. So I won't.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I think the idea of young people like thinking that, you know, they tend to learn from outside in. They tend to learn like, you teach me. They don't realize they're their own teachers. And we can remember that at any age. Within us lies our teacher, not outside us, not in all the books, not in all the prescriptions, but within us lies the teacher. And that's where I will wrap up.
No, I think that's a great place. I think that's a great place to bring it all in, bring it all to a close. So,
well, thank you so much for giving me a chance to chat with you.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say thank you so much for coming on and spending the time with us. And
my pleasure.
I
hope it's helpful. And if people do respond and have questions, just send them along, because you know, it's so good to doubt and be skeptical. Have questions. Absolutely. Is this real? Right.
Well, I'll get your where you like people to contact you and stuff, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. All right.
So and with that, I will end with my usual, which is that I'm not a doctor. Neither of us are doctors. And none of this is medical advice. And if you're having a medical emergency, please go see your own doctor or go to the emergency hospital.
Yes.
And other than that, I hope everyone has a good week, and I will talk to everybody next week.